Welcome back to Politics on Your Side. I am joined now by Hillsborough County Public Defender Julie Holt. Good morning to you, Julie.
Good morning. How are you, Evan?
Good, good. Thanks for being here. All right, we'll start out. You've got some news you want to share with us.
Well, I'm running for Public Defender one more time. I'm going to run for re-election. I'm going to open an account next week, and we'll be moving on.
One more time?
One more time.
Okay. You love the work.
I do. I love the work, and there's a lot to still accomplish. I've got a case that I'm personally involved in right now, and one of the things I try to do is never walk away from a case while it's still pending. So hopefully I'll be re-elected and I'll be able to conclude that case.
And I think all of you at home know that case. You may not know it right now, but we'll get to it in just a minute. Let's start with the voting rights. Amendment 4 was found by the Florida Supreme Court yesterday to include fines, fees, and restitution as the completion of a sentence for ex-felons. How does that affect what your office is doing? You were filing petitions as they came in for some efforts to get rid of the fines and fees for some of these ex-felons. What else are you guys doing on this?
Well, we haven't filed a petition yet, but we were waiting for the Florida Supreme Court opinion. It now says what it says, and obviously we've now have 4 applications that are pending. What we'll be doing is we'll filing petitions on behalf of those individuals. Hillsborough County has set a process in place. We're going to work with the clerk's office, with the courts, with the state attorney's office, and we're going to start representing individuals as it relates to this very important right, obviously.
And the petitions do what?
Well, the petitions in this particular 4 instances will be asking for the court to consider either vacating the fines, finding a way to handle the restitution through some type of payment plan or something of that sort. We'll be seeking donations, obviously, through other organizations that are trying to assist in this area.
To help pay those off.
That's correct. But it looks like the first 4 aren't going to involve restitution. They're going to be a little bit cleaner in that sense.
Yesterday, Governor DeSantis said on Twitter that voting is a privilege that shouldn't be taken lightly.
Well, it's certainly a privilege, but it's also a right that we have as United States citizens here in this country. And none of us should take it lightly. And what we should also do is try to restore as many individuals as possible to a position where they can, in fact, have that right to vote. We have federal legislation that's pending. And then the other thing that's very important to remember is our office represents individuals which are financially challenged from day one. And a lot of people don't realize how exorbitant some of these fines and costs are. And how hard it would be for even individuals who have full-time paying jobs making great money, or at least we think we're making great money, to pay those types of fines. And so the system has become very burdensome as it relates to fines and costs. And I'm hopeful that the legislature will look at some of those fines and costs in the future, because they really do delay the resolution of a lot of cases and the resolution of people that are on probation or house arrest or anything of that sort.
Interesting. Let's talk about Baker acting for kids. You've got a town hall coming up this week about this issue. Tell us what's happening there, because I know the red flag law that was introduced in the wake of the Parkland shooting. All of these things have sort of converged into one, and now a lot of states are looking at Florida and its example, particularly on red flag laws. But to do with Baker acting kids, tell us what your office is doing.
Well, we represent anyone that's charged with a Baker Act, so let's start from that standpoint. What we've noticed over the last couple of years, and what we've been talking through our Safe and Sound Hillsborough Leadership Council, is the increasing numbers of children that are being taken from the school system and from the community, and then they're being placed into the Baker Act system. It's a very complicated system. A lot of the parents don't understand how it works. Our town hall that is set for January 23rd next week through, again, Safe and Sound Hillsborough, is hopefully going to educate more people in the public, more parents, about how this process works. The reason that it's important is because the legislature has mandated that the school system pay very close attention to anyone where there's any type of really behavioral issues that can be tied into the mental health aspect. The situation, however, that exists is that you really have to have a communication and a conversation about the stigma with mental health, because it really is, once you have something put into your file, whether it's a court file or a school file or anything of that sort, that really is kind of like isolating you into another silo in life. And so for us, it's important that we really talk about really mental well-being. How do we recognize the difference between a true illness, a true disorder, and maybe just some type of behavioral issues that are existing that we can really cognitively change in some way. The numbers are extremely high. There's a report that just came out that causes us all great pause. The good thing is, here in Hillsborough County, the state attorney's office, law enforcement, the school system, and our office are constantly talking about this. By going out into the community and by educating individuals about the Baker Act system, I think that's an accomplishment. More importantly, there's now a bill that's pending in the legislature that's going to address some of these concerns that we have. There's not really
In what way?
Well, one of the things is you really should have a very clear pathway for how a child gets taken from school, that parents are notified unless there's real danger to the child, and that when the child is taken into the system, what do you do at that point? Because people think that you have a hearing somewhere along the line. Most children that are taken from the school system, placed into a Baker Act type of situation, are released before that petition's ever filed. And there's not a communication between the facility where the child was and the school system unless the parents and the children voluntarily do that. So you really don't have a cohesive and a fluid type of transition from school to facility back to school, for instance. All of that is a situation that I think needs to be addressed, because you can't take care of our children in the school unless you know what's really going on. Families are entitled to be involved in this process because they need to be involved in how you handle them, where the child goes. Remember one thing, right now the way the law is, the way law enforcement's procedures are, if a child's taken from a school, they're literally handcuffed and put into a police car to be taken unless you can get some type of ambulance to take that child. And we can do that through TransCare. So there's a lot of things we can do to improve this system.
And I know your town hall will address a lot of that. Let's talk finally now about the case that everyone knows about, Howell Trey Donaldson III,
Yes.
Accused of murdering 4 people in the Seminole Heights killing several years ago. What is the status of the case? You took this case on personally, and you don't often do that. Why?
I try to take the cases that I think I can show leadership by example in my office, number one. And number two, I also take cases where I think that there is going to be a significant amount of work over a significant amount of time, because the lawyers in my office have a number of cases. The luxury I have is that I can have one case at a time. This case was important to take because it was different. It's Hillsborough County's serial murder case. That's how it was being referred to. So I thought it was important to, number one, get in there and let's change the conversation first of all. And number two, I think that my experience and my relationship with the court system will lend some credibility to the fact that this case really needs to be addressed in a very logical and a very it's going to be time-consuming case. This is not something
very time-consuming. 50,000 pages of documents, 300 witnesses.
Correct.
The trial's set for August 20th of this year. What is the status in your office? It must be overwhelming for you.
Well, it is overwhelming. Today, my office is taking depositions. We took depositions earlier this week. We're still receiving discovery in this case. And at the last court hearing, you know, I commented to the judge that I don't believe that August date is a realistic date. And it's important for the public, however, to know we are working on that case just as we are in many other cases on a very timely basis. Is there an end in sight for this case? You know, certainly I have laid out in my own mind when I believe that this can be realistically tried. The big part will be, let's take the discovery depositions. There's still 250 of those to do.
When is that? When do you think it can be realistically
I don't believe
tried?
this case can be tried any sooner than 2 years from now, if we're fortunate enough to really work at the pace we're working now.
Would you be seeking to delay it that long?
I don't think the judge is going to let me delay it for 2 years when I appear, but what I am going to do is keep the judge advised of where we are, and we're going to do that through written documents so that the public can look at those also and be aware of the work that we are doing and how much more we have left to do.
Julie Holt, Hillsborough County Public Defender, running for re-election later this year. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Evan.
We really appreciate it. We'll be right back.